Good afternoon. Welcome to today's Creative Corner session. Today we're going to be working on some fantasy watercolor bookmarks. Before we get started with our workshop, we'll go ahead and go over some of our supplies, jump into the workshop, and then we'll go ahead and call it a day. As far as our supplies go, we're not going to use everything on this table per se, but just show you a variety of different ways that we can go about this. So before I go into our supplies, I have our example, and I went ahead and did a mermaid with a nice kind of like ocean themed gradient scale from light blue to dark blue. And then I also have this kind of gold metallic ink scales to signify the mermaid too as well. But for this one, I just used a watercolor paint. India ink, this one's copper tone. I was going to go for gold, but I thought copper would be better. And then I have a silhouette of a mermaid using simply just a Sharpie just to color it in. So for our workshop today, if you are interested in receiving some supplies, in your supply kits, you'll receive these blank watercolor templates for watercolor paper. And then you'll also receive not these half pans, but you'll receive bottles of watercolor paint. And then, of course, you'll also receive a paintbrush too. Since I like to consider myself a professional artist, I have the fancier half pans. I also have a fancier watercolor brush. Well, also some other materials that you can use as some ruler, a pencil. I also brought my calligraphy pen just in case. I'm not sure if I'm going to need it. And then our theme that we're going to be working on is the Phoenix. So I brought some charcoal for that too as well. So with that, before I forget, tape. Tape comes really handy for these situations too as well. But with that, let's go ahead and get started. Alright everyone, off screen I went ahead and grabbed one of these self-healing cutting mats. I like working on these because you obviously cut on one side, but the other side is somewhat brand new. This surface, in my opinion, is more smoother than the work surface, whatever work surface you're working with. So off camera, I grabbed that. Plus, I measured out some borders too. I like to have some borders on some of my stuff, including the watercolor bookmarks that we're going to be making today. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of painter's tape. And it is entirely up to you if you would like to have borders. You don't necessarily have to have them. Like I said, this is just my preference. But with the mermaid bookmark, I went ahead and did an 1/8 of an inch measurement for the bookmarks, the border. And that's what I did for this one too as well. And I am using painter's tape because it's easier to remove. Doesn't quite stick to paper surfaces a whole lot. And then we're just going to go ahead measure out an 1/8 of an inch. Alright, so for all of you experts out there in watercolors, I may be doing this wrong, I might be doing this right, but for all of you beginners, the easiest way to get started with watercolor is to get your paintbrush, dip it in water, and I have my concept for this Phoenix, what we're going to be doing. So almost like polka dots, I'm going to get some of my areas wet with the water. A nice symbol for phoenix eye. Phoenix. It's kind of like one of those things, moose and geese. Well, goose and geese are different, but like mice and moose. Kind of tough to figure out the plural form. So for the concept for my Phoenix bookmark is to create kind of like these little sunspots, and they're going to transition from this nice yellow color, kind of almost like a mandala too, starting in the middle with yellow and working my way outwards, transitioning to orange, to red. That's kind of how I did my mermaid bookmark too. So I started from the top with light blue, worked my way on down with a little bit more of the darker blues. I also have a quick reference for colors too as well, to try to figure out which one would be the best. This is gonna end up looking more like flowers than actual like sunspots where my concept was. So what we're gonna do is gonna go ahead and continue this process, cut out our audio, and then when we finish up the watercolor, I'll go on and show you the next step. Now that we went ahead and finished the background, so it kind of looks like tie-dye, and that's kind of the effect that I want to go with. I went online, simply looked up Phoenix silhouettes, and I chose a few different ones. There's a plethora of different images you can get as reference photos, but I kind of just don't want to draw it on there. So what I'm going to do is I use a pencil, put some graphite on the backhand side of it, and I'm just going to get my regular lead pencil. Theoretically, by putting your graphite pencil on one side of your paper and you draw it on the other side, it should come out onto your image, which I don't know if you can really tell from there, but it looks okay. And then I'm going to roll up my sleeves, grab my ultra fine Sharpie. You can use any sort of marker to do this. And all we have to do is just simply color it in. So we're going to go ahead and speed up this process again, and then there's one last thing I would like to show you before we call it a wraps for today. So using the silhouette that we had, I went ahead and filled it in after drawing it out with my pencil. The last thing I'm going to do is get a charcoal stick. This is soft charcoal, so it's going to spread a little bit more easier. And I'm just going to I think we have it. And the last thing we'll have to do is just go ahead and carefully remove the tape. Because I know painter's tape typically doesn't stick to paper, but once you start incorporating liquid into the mix, then it can get a little bit tricky. So when you peel your layers, I like to peel away from where your paper is, just so that way it stays as pristine as possible. But there we have it. We have our nice little phoenix with kind of that sunspot tie-dye finish in the background on top of some charcoal that we used as well. And then we also have our mermaid bookmark with the nice watercolor in the background, the silhouette of the mermaid, as well as the metallic ink. I don't know if you can capture that on camera, but that's it for today. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Creative Corner. We went ahead and worked on some fantasy watercolor bookmarks. Feel free to share your photos on our social media, simply just tagging us. And we are available on all social media platforms, from Facebook to Instagram and so much more. If you would like some supplies to do this at home, we do have a limited number of supply kits available, first come, first serve basis, and the link to request your supply kit will be in the video description. If you have any ideas for future Creative Corner content, just feel free to reach out to me. My name is Josh. Thank you for hanging out with me this afternoon, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.